Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Greetings from California. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the second episode of my show called Tales of Endurance. And I have a very special guest today. She herself is not only a woman of steel, but also teaches other women how to maximize their strength and endurance mentally as well as physically, literally. Welcome, Sarah Siertle. How are you doing?
I am great. Thank you for that wonderful welcome.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us about yourself and what you do, your own words.
Yeah. So I am a strength and movement coach, which means I mostly teach people how to get strong so that they can show up in their lives, so that they can do whatever they want to do, whether
Mhm.
that's playing with their kids or like whatever kind of hobby they do, like rock climbing or dancing or whatever. I'm here to help you get stronger so that you can do all of those things.
And so you also work with fitness, strength training.
Yes.
Tell us
Yep. So
about that.
strength Yeah, so strength training, I teach people how to lift weights. I think there is a really big gap. Like you go into a gym and you see all of the machines and everything, and then you see all of the like really big buff people using the free weights. But they work for everybody. I truly believe that strength training is for everyone. And so I try to fill that space, that beginner space of like you don't know how to lift weights, let me teach you how to do it, what to do, how to do it safely, so that it's not just like all of a sudden you have to be lifting hundreds and hundreds of pounds or anything. You can start with like literally 5 pounds if you want to.
What made you decide to go into strength training? I mean, like we have aerobics and yoga and Pilates on one side, and then there's lifting weights.
Uh, It was actually kind of an accident. I joined a gym and I just started going. It was a class-based gym, so I was going to yoga classes. I was going to like all sorts of different classes just to try things out. I had literally never gone to a gym before or done anything fitness. And so one of the classes I went to was a strength training class. And so I walk in and everyone's lifting weights, and I was like, oh, I made a mistake. But the coach there was really awesome. And he like took the time to teach me. So like explaining things because I knew literally nothing.
Mhm.
Um, and so he kind of helped
Like
me. And I
most
was
of us.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
completely
exactly.
blank.
Exactly. I had no clue. I mean, at this point, I was in my early 20s. I was like
Mhm.
24 or so. And I was just like, I don't know. But he
Yeah,
took the time to teach me. And so then I was like, by the end of class, I felt comfortable and I was like, okay, this was actually kind of fun. And so
yeah,
I started going back and then I got really into it because
yeah,
lifting weights is kind of addicting.
yeah. So there is this concept that, strength training or weightlifting, it can make you all buff, and with all
Hmm.
these huge muscles and all. And, you develop all these manly physical features, six packs and stuff. But if you look at you, you're so petite. How
Hmm.
do you manage to maintain that? I mean, you're so pretty.
Well, thank you. Um, so the cool thing about strength training is that it doesn't actually make you super buff unless you want to be super buff. So there are specific ways of training to build muscle. And if you don't do those, the likelihood of you getting really buff is pretty small, especially as a woman. Um, and so like, you can try to train for muscle growth and you can eat like tons and tons and tons of protein to like
Yeah.
encourage that muscle growth. But unless you try really hard, like it's like if I were to try to do that, it would still take me forever. Um, you
I believe
really have to prioritize.
it's a certain number of reps you have to do, or maybe a certain number of certain kind of exercises or weights that you have to lift in order to get there,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, any particular diet, probably like we have these protein shakes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
What about
Yeah.
you? What is your diet like?
I don't really, I really what I try to prioritize is eating lots of greens. Um,
Mhm.
Like if I go like a day or two without eating something green, I'm like my body needs it. Like I crave green stuff. So like I still eat what I want. The biggest thing with strength training is to make sure you eat enough food. Because you're lifting the weights and stuff, you need to make sure that you're actually fueling your body. And so, like, I try to eat lots of protein. You don't have to eat meat, but like eggs, nuts, like things like that are really good for protein, and like making sure that you get enough nutrients to fuel your body.
Yeah. So there's no particular kind of a diet for strength training.
Not unless you really like, if you're trying to compete or, like I said, like grow those really big muscles, there's a pretty strict diet. But if you're just looking to get a little bit stronger and like maybe like help your joints or something, there's not really a particular diet. Like you want a balanced diet, you know, you want to like make sure you're getting some carbs, make sure you're getting some protein, a little bit of fat, but like overall healthier foods. Like you don't want to eat a ton of like processed stuff like potato chips
So it's
every
the
day.
regular balanced diet that all
Yeah,
nutritionists would probably. Okay. So when
exactly.
people come to you for training, do you work with their diet as well? Is
I
that
don't
something that you
really.
do? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no. I am a certified personal trainer and strength coach. I am not a nutritionist. And in some states, you know, even as a nutritionist, you can't really give meal plans. It's more of a dietitian sort of thing. And so I let other people handle the nutrition, and I help people get strong.
That's great. That's great. And that's such a powerful term in itself. I was going through your website, and I saw there this message written, get strong and take on life's adventures. I mean, this is so powerful. I work with mental trauma and PTSD, and we see a lot of eating disorders due to, stress and the emotional eating that people do, or even, loss of appetite completely. I've experienced it myself. We also see people struggling with, negative body image and shame associated with it, which is devastating for their confidence. So the
Absolutely.
first thing we advise, I mean, I, as a trauma coach, we advise is self-care and self-compassion. Have you had clients who may have shared any of their struggles with you?
Oh, I mean, not only clients, I think we all struggle with that because
Mm,
society just makes it so challenging to love yourself, you know. If you look through any of the fitness hashtags on social media or even just talk to people, they're always trying to lose weight. Like all of the marketing is that you have to do this to be thin, do this to lose weight,
is
or
about body, is about how we look.
yeah, yeah, it's all about how we look. And I try to get away from that messaging. I'm a big fan of body neutrality. So there's body positivity, which is like moving towards like I love myself, but realizing that a lot of people struggle with even like that's just such a far off concept. Whereas body neutrality is taking your body out of the picture and just saying like I can I can do this, you know, like I got up today, I took a walk today or something, and
Yeah,
focusing on like what you're doing instead of how
yeah,
your body looks. Or like
yeah,
you don't have to like I love myself to be
yeah.
able to do things. You just have to like recognize like
Feel that strength in your mind. It's basically the
mhm,
mindset,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And
yeah,
when you say get strong and take on life's adventures, it's like just feeling strong mentally and emotionally and physically. I mean, even if you're just going out for a walk and you're not able to, I mean, I turned 40 this year, and I can literally, although I've never felt better in my life in every other way, but my joints, they've started creaking, here and there.
mhm,
Uh, and so, yes, you do need to get strong.
yeah,
That's there. That's there. Okay.
yeah.
So your work is mostly around physical strength, you
Mhm.
know, and but it's powerful to know that the impact of strength training is on your mind and emotions as well. What's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. On the surface level, you know, it's really empowering to feel strong.
Mm,
Um, like it's super empowering to be able to look at something and go, I can pick that up, whether
mm,
it's like the actual weights themselves
mm,
or I like for my my side job is teaching dance, and you know, there's
mm,
like big speakers and stuff, or like we're moving tables
Yeah.
and stuff all over, and being able to go, oh yeah, I can pick this up. Let me help with this. Let
Yeah.
me move it is
Yeah.
just empowering in itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
on the deeper level, strength training is huge for stress relief. There's
Yeah.
been so many times I've been super stressed from work and gone into the gym and just like lifted a lot of weights and felt better. But the long-term effects, it actually reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression, which is huge. Like any sort of like impact you can make against that is
Yeah.
can be felt.
Yeah. Have there been days when you wanted to quit? You found it too hard or tiring or physically exhausting, and you're like, oh, why am I doing this? Why?
Absolutely. I think there's been times in my life where I've wanted to quit strength training because like it's just like why am I doing this? I'm so
Yeah.
tired. And then there's been other times where I've wanted to quit everything, but
Yeah.
strength training has kept me going.
Yeah.
So like I think it's a balance. Like sometimes you need to let your body rest and give
Yeah.
it that break, but sometimes it can be like it's the only thing like keeping you going. So I think both sides of it are
So how
important.
do you encourage yourself to get back, like if especially if there's been a gap in your training, or maybe, you just took a, say, self-care break yourself, maybe you're traveling or visiting family, or maybe you got unwell, you're sick or something
Mhm.
like that. So I know this with like regular people like us. I mean, not that you're not regular, but if we start going to the gym, then it kind of, and if we're not consistent, then
Mhm.
after a while we lose that habit.
Mhm.
And after a while, it's just too hard to motivate yourself to go back. And especially for me, I once worked with a trainer. I mean, he was not a trainer; he was a mindset coach, but around health and fitness. And the word that I used was that I find going to the gym or working out or doing any kind of, workout, exercise, walk, it feels like work to me.
Mhm.
That was the word I was using for myself. And so when I'm saying that it just feels like it's another added responsibility, it's just another added task, another added chore that I have to do, then it's like it's in the bottom of the list, of the to-do list, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, coming back to you, how do you keep that motivation on?
Well, the first part of that, I think, is something that you've already mentioned with your work, and that is self-compassion. You know, we all fall off the bandwagon at some point, whether that's for a couple days or a couple months or years.
Yeah.
And letting that be okay. Like the harder you
Mhm.
are on yourself, the harder it's going to be
Mhm.
to get going again. Like if you constantly feel bad about skipping workouts, then
Mhm.
you're not gonna like be excited to go back into it because you're gonna have that little shame spiral going.
Mhm.
But if you realize like, okay, my body needed this break, I gave it this break, I'm ready to start moving again, you can
Yeah.
start with like literally like going for a 1 minute walk or something. Like it doesn't have to be big to start. I think especially with strength training, people think it has to be these big like 2 hour workouts or something like
Mhm.
that. And I mean, you can do that if you want to, but you
Mhm.
can even start with doing like one weight exercise per day or something, or like I'm gonna do a couple squats or something
Yeah.
like that, and start really small and build yourself up. Because even that little bit counts,
Yeah.
like
So
the big workouts are
it's like
great.
lifelong. It's a
Yeah,
lifelong thing that you just have to do whatever you can in the moment or on that day. Just do it.
exactly. Yeah. So like starting small, you can also combine it with things that you like doing. Like if there's a TV show you love doing, watch that as you're doing your workouts, or like have a favorite playlist or something like that. I really encourage my clients to put on like their favorite songs or something while they're working out. Just to like something that will make it more fun. Or like I'm a big fan of not doing exercises you hate. If you hate burpees and you have
Yeah.
to do burpees for your workout, you're never going to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so take them out, do something you like doing instead.
Or something that your body can do. Like sometimes
Mhm.
if your knees are not strong enough to do certain, let's say a burpee, then don't do it. Don't put stress on that knee that's already hurting.
Exactly.
Right.
Like do things that feel good, do things that you think are fun, or pair something fun with it.
Any advice to women who are scared of lifting weights? I mean, it's scary.
It is scary. It's so scary to be standing and looking at these gigantic weights. And the funny part is that the heavier weights are where you get a lot of the benefits. But my advice is always to start small. Like you can start with like a literal 1 pound weight and get used to the movement. The key there is to eventually get heavier. Like you can get really comfortable with like 1 pound or 5 pounds, but after a couple weeks or so, you're probably not going to see any benefits. It's just going to feel the same. And so gradually bumping yourself up, even if that's only one weight at a time, just like that slow increment can really help build your confidence.
I started with a 16-ounce water bottle. And believe me, you know, when I would pick it up, I would find it very light. You know, of course, it's just a water bottle. There's nothing. But when you start doing those reps, after 5 minutes, that the water bottle starts getting heavy. You're like, oh no, I can't lift it anymore.
Well, there's even just those exercises that are, or games or whatever, that like put your arms out and see who can hold their arms out the longest. And like you start and you're like, this is pretty easy. But after a couple minutes, you're like, my arms are heavy.
And even if you're not holding anything, they can start hurting. You can do it.
Yeah. So starting super light, starting with a water bottle. I really like if you're working out at home, starting with like a basket of clothes or something, like just pick that up and put that down a couple times, or like go up the steps one time. Like all of those are really great ways to start and build that confidence, and you can always add more over time.
It's basically just adding some form of resistance, you know, to your, like whatever movement you're doing, you're adding something which is against that movement so that the muscle gets some push, that extra push, right?
Yeah.
I believe that's what strength training is. Okay. So any other myths that you think people come and say to you, women, that they have, that you enjoy busting and saying, oh no, that's not how it is?
I think we covered a lot of the big ones. The getting bulky one is a huge one, or the thinking that it's not strength training unless you start with like 500 pounds or something like that. Let's see.
And maybe people thinking that you have to take in a lot of protein, maybe protein shakes, or maybe, you know, there's this concept also, people taking in steroids or stuff like that to feel bulky.
Absolutely.
Some of the stuff that I can think of.
Yeah.
Anything else that people come to you, which you find funny, maybe?
Yeah. I guess two things come to mind. One is, since we touched on protein, another one is supplements. Everyone's always asking, like, what supplements do I need? What supplements do I need? And like, your doctor might know what kind of supplements might be beneficial for you, like per blood tests and stuff. But for general fitness, like, you really don't, as if you're eating a healthy diet, you really don't have to worry about that so much. But they're everywhere. Every fitness coach on Instagram, it seems like, is endorsing some sort of supplement. And it's like, you really don't need them.
So these supplements, you know, because as a doctor myself, you know, so of course, if you have a deficiency, then of course the doctor will recommend. But if you don't have a deficiency, I know there's these supplements there. A lot of them have a lot of caffeine, you know, and I mean, I don't know, other than caffeine, they talk about like pre-workout and post-workout, and I don't know what they have in them myself. So you recommend staying clear from them?
You can use them. Honestly, like a pre-workout is kind of meant to like hype you up for a workout, and
caffeine again, probably.
Yeah, right? Whereas I just drink my normal cup of coffee, you know. There's like more, you don't have to use them. I feel like sometimes there's a lot of pressure, like strength training is a serious thing, and so I have to use supplements if I'm going to be any good at it. But like, all of it's just additional stuff, like especially if you're trying to compete or build big muscles or something. Aside from that, like for just doing cool stuff or like living your daily life, like making your joints feel better, that supplement really isn't going to do a whole lot for you.
Maybe a little bit just to offset the, you know, because they say there's the electrolyte, although I won't say that the workout causes the electrolyte balance, but you know, because you're using a lot of energy, or maybe you might be sweating or something, so just to, because your muscles do tend to get sore, they do tend to cramp, because of the electrolytes, because you need those potassium, sodium, and that calcium, all of that. So maybe a little bit, again, if the doctor recommends it, but you're not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I think it's not as necessary as a lot of people make it seem. Yeah.
If you take it, good enough, but if you don't, nothing will happen. Nothing, you're not losing on anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing you said brings me to the other myth that I love busting is getting really, really, really sore and getting really, really, really sweaty doesn't mean you had a good workout. Like just because you're if you're super, super sore, like the whole kind of wear it as a badge of pride, like, oh, I did a workout and I couldn't walk for 3 days.
That's what my husband says.
But that just means you probably overdid it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if you're starting new, I mean, if you get sore and he goes like, oh, that means you really did it. It really worked. That's his go-to statement.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you also mentioned you are into dancing. You teach dancing?
Yes, I do. Yep.
What kind of dancing do you teach?
I teach swing dancing. So it's a Black American partner dance that was developed in the late 1920s. So when usually people know it with like all the flips and stuff. We don't usually do those except for performances. But if you think of like big band music or like World War II music or something, that's around the era.
So you do this as part of your training, like physical fitness, or just as a dance class, maybe, just a recreational class?
I do it for fun. I also teach it, like you said. I actually got into strength training because of dancing, because people kept telling me that if I started going to the gym, it would make me a better dancer. And so that's when I joined a gym and started going to classes, and then eventually found strength training.
Oh, okay. So you were going to the gym for that.
Okay. Yeah, but I started dancing long before.
You do have a project also, right? I saw on your website. Would you like to tell us a little about that?
Yeah, it's the History Spotlight Project. So it's a very small thing, but because swing dancing was created so many years ago, I'm a big history buff about it, and so I really like to honor the history and the roots of the dance that I do. And so I think there's lots of little pieces in lots of different places about the history of some of the people and some parts of the dance. And so I wanted to, for my students, I wanted to put it all in one place in an easily digestible way, because there's like big, thick textbooks and stuff that are just really hard to get through and read to get all this information. So I just wanted to make information about Lindy Hop a lot easier to find and learn about.
It's just information, or are there tutorials? You're teaching them dancing?
There are tutorials on my YouTube page, which I believe is linked there as well. So there's like learn these moves, but then also learn the history of like some of the people that helped create the dance.
So is this is it a permanent thing, or is it something you're just doing because it's the Black History Month in February?
I started doing it a couple of years ago before COVID. And I would like to keep it going.
Permanently.
Yeah, it's there permanently. I try to like talk about it a little bit more during Black History Month, but ultimately like Black history is the history of Lindy Hop all the time. And so I think it's, it's not just a 1 month thing, it's an all the time sort of thing. So I try to keep it going as much as possible permanently.
Yeah. Okay, so like if people want to come and train with you, how do they reach out to you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is sarah.siertle. So it's just my name. Or my website is siertle.com, and that's got information about my programs and how you can train with me.
So do you do online or in person?
I do virtual training. So you can train with me from literally anywhere in the world.
But it will be live? You'll be there live?
Yep. So I do have a group program, which does live calls as well, but that's a very like from the beginning, teach you like literally step 1 onwards. And then I also do one-on-one training which starts with weekly live calls just to make sure you feel kind of like what we were talking about. Like, it's really scary to start strength training. So we start with weekly calls so that you feel super comfortable with everything before we move on or do your program.
Any closing comments that you would like to give before we, I mean, it was such a beautiful talk. Any last minute advice, suggestion, comments you have for your viewers?
I really just want to go back to that self-compassion. I feel like when we think about fitness, it seems so hardcore and unforgiving, and it does not have to be that way. It can be fun, it can be gentle, it can be inclusive for everybody. It can be very healing. And it doesn't have to be this intense, scary thing if you don't want it to be.
With that, let's wrap up. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Join me next month with a very new guest, and see you till then. Bye-bye.